Liss, and the name of the program is The Way to Go. I invite you to join me as we explore places to go and things to do. The subject of today's program is the Lehman Art Center at Lehman College in the Bronx. And we've talked about the wonderful programming that they have at this center, and it's really a marvelous performing arts center. And my guest today is Chris Lynch, who is the marketing director. And Chris, so we're going to talk all about Lehman and what it's doing in the 1994-1995 season. So why don't we sum up in a few words? How would you characterize the programming this year
for the 1994-95 season? I would say there are two words come to mind. One is international, and the other is challenging, and those are connected, and I can explain what that means.
Do challenging first, because I'm intrigued by that word.
Okay, challenging is I mean, some people perceive it as a negative, but I perceive it as very much a positive, and there's exciting things happening at Lehman. As in many art centers, really around the country and around the world, there are always changing tastes and changing populations. That's perhaps magnified to some extent where we are, because we are in the North Bronx, right next to Riverdale, 5 minutes from Yonkers. So our population is very diverse in terms of we draw from the Bronx, we draw from Westchester, we draw from the city. That creates certain challenges because the population changes and, of course, their tastes change. So over the last few years, we've seen some of our programming, what would be called more traditional programming, I guess traditional classical music, dance. We've seen some audience has diminished slightly, or at least changed the way they buy, not so much subscriptions anymore as perhaps more single tickets, which gives a few more white hairs to arts administrators. But I mean, that's people today, I think, have less time for.
And the direction that this changing audience takes you brings me to the next subject. You said international.
That's right. That's right, and those are very much, you're right, connected, because what Lehman has been moving towards in the last few years, and this is really, I mean, it's an interesting process. It's kind of a symbiosis, if you will, because the audience, in a sense, leads us, as long as we're good and are attuned to our audience, and I think we are, as they have changed over the years and told us the things that they want. Our programming has moved steadily to an international focus. We have so many diverse populations, diverse ethnic groups, that we have found more and more that those are the programs that our audiences want, and they are much more than just kind of the more traditional performers from around the United States.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to very specific ethnic groups, so that the programming that you do is only for one narrow group. It's broader in its scope. I think that's why you use the term international.
That's right. Although there are some programs that, of course, obviously, will be directed towards more one group, but that's not our goal, and I think that's not what the identity of the center is. You're right. It's more to draw programs from around the world that have interest to certain communities, but really have an interest to our entire audience base. And we've really found that to be true over the last few years, is that we have events that maybe have a core audience, a community, but really the more that we've had people coming to Lehman and start to experience us as an international center, the more we've seen those audiences become more diverse.
When does your season run? From what month to what month?
Well, that's becoming harder and harder to say. I mean, traditionally it runs from mid-September or early October is our first main stage event, all the way through to the end of May, sometimes June. We have now started to do more summer programming as well over the last few years, and we'll do a few more next summer in '95. So it's a little harder to say where it stops, if indeed it does. It certainly doesn't seem to from a marketing perspective. But I would say traditionally, at least, it's September through June.
Let's talk about some specifics, and we have some illustrations which will cover some of the things that we have. Specifically, let's get some feeling of what this diverse programming is. What about this dance program that you...
Okay, well, in 94 and 95, we have just a tremendous... We have 5 different series that we've been presenting. But you mentioned the dance programming, and one of those is the Ballet Théâtre de Bordeaux, which will be here in the spring. And that is part of a series of dance where we also have, we had in the fall, a Spanish dance company, Teatro de Danza Española. We've also had the National Folk Theater of Ireland is going to be around in the spring. And what that illustrates, and that is really the direction that Lehman is going in, is that we have found that we have a much better response for programmings that are of international flavor, but are the only performance in the New York City area. For instance, when the Bordeaux Ballet comes in, they're coming in exclusively to Lehman Center in the New York City area, and we find that enables us to draw from throughout the city and throughout Westchester for that kind of programming.
Now, you say exclusively. We do see in the programs that are announced by various other performing arts centers, from the bottom of Brooklyn to the top of Connecticut,
right.
That a lot of the programming is similar, if not the same, and yet you do have some exclusive programming, don't you?
Right, we do, and I think that we probably do more than some other centers, because we've found that is our strength, is to bring in some international performers that are tremendous performers, but are not necessarily haven't played in New York very often, or at least if they're coming in, if they're on a tour, that they'll only play at Lehman Center.
Are they hard to find?
They are difficult to find. Our managing director is Jack Lobenfeld, and he's terrific. I mean, he spends an awful lot of time. I would say that may be his biggest job among many jobs, is deciding and looking, years ahead in some cases for things that he think will fit that kind of bill, that will be of an international focus, that will not be playing in other places. That's not exclusively, of course. I mean, there's other programming we do that are in different parts of the city and Westchester, but we try to emphasize those programs that are only available at Lehman.
It interests me that you have such diversity, and I think that we can jump from the ballet to Babes in Toyland, for example.
Well, that's right.
And that's a big jump.
Right. I mean, that's one of the exciting parts of our programming, and frankly, as a marketer, it's also one of the challenging parts, is that we have such a diverse programming, and we speak to some different audiences. But one of the directions that we have gone in more and more in the last few years is the family programming and children's theater. I don't like to talk about children's theater so much as family program, because we try to get things that are significant enough in terms of the size and in terms of the quality, that it's not necessarily just for children.
You do that in the daytime, if it's family.
We do, yes, or early evening. In the case of Babes in Toyland, there's 2 performances, and that's a 2 o'clock performance and a 7 o'clock performance. But of course, yeah, for the family programming, it'd be more in the afternoon.
Now, we're going to talk about more about daytime programming, because it's not only family programming that's in there. You have some pretty famous people that are appearing as well. That's
right. Well, we have, for instance, one of the more traditional programming that she's a beloved singer is well, actually, let me talk first about Claire Bloom. Claire Bloom is a well-known English actress, and she is going to be part of a program in March, which we're really excited about, because it kind of illustrates the different ways and the different challenges that arts groups have. In the past, we have just traditional programming, say the BBC Philharmonic, who will be here also in the spring. They're going to present a fabulous programming of classical music. Words and Music programming with Claire Bloom, who's an English actress, is going to be a program that combines poetry and music. And we're really excited about it, because we find that that's what the classical audience is now looking for, something with a little bit of a twist, whether it be an unusual piece that hasn't been played before, or just some kind of a different performance.
And when you do that, you're taking the pure classical audience who goes to concerts and chamber music and adding something to it.
That's right.
By doing something a little different in there.
That's right. We do have very much a core audience for our classical music that will show up time and again, but we like to expand that. And so this program has Claire Bloom, who is doing some theatrical pieces, but it also has the Shanghai Quartet. It's got Eugenia Zuckerman, so it should be a tremendous evening. And that's the kind of thing we've found that we need to do more, is just things that have a little extra edge to them, or something a little different to set our programming apart.
Now let's take a big leap and talk about some of the Yiddish program, the Jewish programming that you're doing, and of course you have a large appeal because of the audience that you have in the area.
That's right. We've always had a good number of audience members that appreciate that programming, and we found over the last year we had the opportunity to present a series, and it's now called the Jewish Cultural Series, and it really is in keeping with the direction we're moving in, to just kind of have different types of international performances, and that series is doing very well, and that has had anything from Claire Barry, who is one of the Barry sisters. Many people may remember from their Ed Sullivan
and the Klezmatics, of course. And
then, of course, the Klezmatics. So we're really excited about that. That's in the spring. And
let's talk about them a little bit. What do they do?
Well, they're a klezmer group that plays the traditional klezmer music, but you wouldn't want to use the term traditional in their case, because they're very kind of an energetic younger group. Klezmer music has been really experiencing a tremendous revitalization. You go down into the Village in New York City on a Friday night, and you'll find klezmer groups performing down there.
I recently read that there was a klezmer group performing at the Kitchen, which is
that's right, exactly. Yeah, that's a perfect illustration of what's happening in that kind of music. And the Klezmatics are one of the premier groups that are kind of riding this new wave. So that's really what we like about that series, is that we not only have the kind of traditional, but the kind of the newer edge. It should be a fabulous series.
Now, there's more, of course, in the Jewish Heritage series.
That's right,
and some pretty well-known people.
That's right. Well, Bruce Adler, who is well-known not only in this country, but of course in Israel. He's one of the heroes of the Israeli and the Yiddish stage. He's coming in the spring as well, and he'll be accompanied by the Golden Land Klezmer Orchestra. So
now he comes from a very famous theatrical family, doesn't he?
That's right. He does. Yes, that's right.
His mother and his father have both been performers.
He comes from yes, that's right. His whole family has been involved in Yiddish theater for many decades, I guess. So he's well known, and we're very lucky to have him.
Before we go on, I do want to point out that we're talking today about the Lehman Center for the Performing Arts, which is located in the northern end of the Bronx, and my guest today is Chris Lynch, who is the marketing director for the Lehman Center. So let's get on to this whole subject of we've talked about so many different things right now, and diversity seems to be the key. How is this all done? How far ahead is the programming done?
Well, the initial programming, or at least looking into the programming, is done really sometimes 2-3 years ahead. As I said, Jack Lobenfeld, who's our managing director, he starts looking and speaking to companies and just kind of out there looking around a couple of years in advance. We have now a good portion of the 95-96 season, for instance, is in place, and I believe Jack is even now looking at 96-97. So that can start years ahead. For instance, in 95-96, we're already excited about the fact that we're going to have the Bolshoi Ballet Ensemble. We're going to have one of the premier dance companies from China. We're going to have a Ukrainian folk dance company, who is one of the premier folk companies in the world, folk dance companies in the world, and many of those are going to be New York City, the only New York City appearance of the company. So that's the kind of direction we're moving in. But those things are in place, a year and a half in advance, at least in terms of actually contracting out the event. And of course, then marketing starts very soon after that.
You mentioned Jack Globenfeld. He has, of course, been my guest on this program, and I'm always amazed that I run into him at other places in New York. I know he's very active in the cabaret field, and is very well known and very highly respected, and has a long background in that field.
He does, exactly, and of course that we're lucky that he has that, because we use that often. Part of what he does when he's out there is making those contacts to get kind of the more unusual performances that maybe other people don't know about, as I said, for us to get the exclusives. So he does a terrific job with that. He and of course Andrea Rockauer is our assistant director, and she does a tremendous job too with him.
Now, as far as cabaret, there are a lot of performers. There's cabaret going on all the time, and there are some performers who are the cream of the cream.
That's right.
And one of my favorites, of course, is Barbara Cook, who...
Funny you should mention her.
Well, I know that she's appearing. I know you've got her scheduled. I have seen her many times. I have to admit, going all the way back to when she was the ingenue in The Music Man.
Well, that's I don't actually recall that, but that's right. I know that she's had a long and illustrious career, and
she plays the top, the top rooms, and she's exceptional.
Well, she's she is one when the term is loosely thrown about, living legend. You don't sometimes that's a marketing term, but really in her case that's not at all an exaggeration. She and perhaps one or two other people are really the top of that field. And we are thrilled to have her coming up in the spring.
Do you know the exact date?
It's in March. Actually, I'd have to check that date for you, but yes, it's in March.
I'm going to have to make sure that I get the literature and put that on my calendar, because, as I say, she's a favorite. I've seen her perform many times, and I know that she's really terrific. Talking about the getting a copy of the schedule, you do mail out brochures to people. I know that's important. Can we give a telephone number where people can call to get on your mailing list? Absolutely. And also to make reservations? Absolutely, and also they can call for the dates for those shows. Our box office number is 718-960-8833. And I'll give you an opportunity to give that telephone number again, and also we'll put it up in the closing credits so that people can call and do that. That'd be terrific, because we use an awful lot of our marketing nowadays is becoming more direct mail. We're finding that people are kind of congested with newsprint and that kind of thing, and sometimes it's better for us and better for them to kind of find the audiences who are interested in that. Yeah, there's another reason for that. People talk about getting what they call junk mail, but specifically, if there's something that interests you, the best place to get it is right in your own home. That's right. There is just so much space that is available in the other media, in the print media, and sometimes you just don't see the details of what's going on. That's right. And, I think that we do have to be careful, and we are, in terms of who we mail to. We're not, we don't like to just mail to in mass quantities. We're very conscious about of getting people who are interested in cultural events, and it's mostly people who have contacted us. So that's why I would encourage anyone who's watching the show to call the box office if you're not already receiving our mailings, and get on that list. People ask me, how do you know what's going on for this program? There are so many things happening. And my answer is very simple. I say I get on as many mailing lists as I possibly can, and when a brochure such as yours comes in, I look at it, I circle the things that interest me, and I put them in my calendar as possibles for that date. And sometimes, if I like the whole series, I'll subscribe to the series, and sometimes I'll 2 weeks or so beforehand, I'll say, gee, that's something I really want to do, and I'm going to do that. So those brochures are very, very helpful to me. Norman, you're a marketer's dream. That's how we'd like people to always respond, but that's great. We talked about some of the series. I know that Barbara Cook is, earlier we talked about the fact that you have an afternoon series. Now, Barbara Cook is going to be in the afternoon. That's right. She's part of the matinee series. That's really been a very popular series over the years, and it's a little
difficult to define in terms of exactly the performances, only because it's so diverse, and I think that's what people love. I mean, we have Barbara Cook, for instance, in the matinee series this year. We have Barbara Cook. We have the Newport Jazz Festival on tour, and we have a really fun piece coming up in the spring on Patsy Cline. It's called A Closer Walk with Patsy Cline, and that's a really interesting piece. I mean, it's not a concert. Patsy Cline was, as you know, one of the greatest country singers of all time, and she's more than that. She's a very interesting story, and this is a portrayal of her by Gail Bliss, and she'll be performing many of Patsy Cline's greatest hits.
Is that like a one-woman show as we see so much?
That's right. I mean, she'll have a band behind her, and there's a few other folks, but she is obviously the focus of the show, and she does a terrific job, and we're really looking forward to it. But that's the kind of programming that's just a little bit different, but we find we get a terrific response for it.
Now, the reason for doing things in the afternoon, is it because some people don't like to go out at night? Why do you do that?
Well, sure. I mean, I think that the reason we do that is just to offer as many alternatives as possible for people, because there are some people who just prefer the afternoon performances. We've got performances mainly on Saturday evening and Sunday afternoon, and we get a good crowd for both, but there's a different crowd. Perhaps it might be a bit of an older crowd on Sunday afternoon, but we find that some people just prefer those performances.
This might be an appropriate time. You mentioned that some of your audiences are older people, and transportation is an important question, I think, with any performing arts center. And you're conveniently located, aren't you, for people who do have their own cars and for people who do not have their own cars?
That's right. We are right on the number 4 subway line for those folks that live in New York City. We're also very close. There's a metro stop not far from us. But in terms of, we get an awful lot of our audience members do drive to the theater, and we're pleased to have free attended parking. We have a good amount of parking around the college. It's very interesting. I find that people who don't know the facility might say, "Oh, you're in the Bronx, that very urban setting." And I myself, the first time I came up to Lehman, I was stunned. I mean, it's on the campus of Lehman College, which is a beautiful, probably 70 or 80 acre tree-filled campus, and we have plenty of parking in the area around. So people, especially once they come one time, certainly come back because of that, because of the convenience. It's free parking. There's a 2-minute walk into the theater. There's attendants on hand for the parking. And of course, I might put in an additional plug while I'm talking about our assets, is the ticket prices. We're in general about 50 to 75% of what the prices are in New York. We have our top ticket prices are usually $20, perhaps $25 for a special event, whereas of course, as you know, you can spend $60, $70 sometimes for a show in the city.
And you mentioned that the parking is close to the theater, and what we really have not talked about is the theater itself. It is a showplace, isn't it? It
is a showplace. It's really the gem of the Bronx. I mean, it's a 2,300 seat concert hall that has been hailed for its acoustics, and it's just a beautiful place. It's a nice, as I said, it's a nice setting on campus. The building is only about 15 years old. We have state-of-the-art equipment, and people that come, I think, I'm happy to say, are very surprised and just very pleased with the facility.
I seem to recall that on a couple occasions when I was there that they were taping some TV specials or something.
That's right. Many people may have seen, for instance, on PBS, there's a Peter Paul and Mary special.
Oh, yes. I wasn't there when they were taping it, but I did see that.
But that's shown often on PBS still to this day, and of course that was one of the performances that was taped at Lehman Center. We offer not just, of course, our main the main thing that we offer are the performances, but we've had presidential debates there, for instance, and there's a number of different different events like that take place at the concert hall. I might also mention, in addition to that, is we have a 500-seat theater, the Lovinger Theater, which we do use throughout our season for different events. I mean, we have Marcus Roberts, a terrific jazz pianist who's on the bill for this year. He is in the 500-seat theater. A couple of our theater productions, On Golden Pond and Ghost Stories by Stephen King, those are both in the 500-seat theater because we like to offer, it depends really on what the programming is. For those kind of events, we want that intimate setting.
That's a thrust stage, I believe.
That's right, it is. And it's also a state-of-the-art facility. So we program mostly in the concert hall because we have those larger events. But when we get a chance, I love the performances in the 500-seat theater because it is so intimate and you're so close to the stage.
As the regular viewers of this program know, I like Broadway, off-Broadway, off-Broadway, and the smaller the theater is sometimes, the better I like it because the closer to the stage I am. It's really what it amounts to.
We have, for instance, the National Folk Theatre of Ireland, which is again in keeping with our international flavor. They're coming in on St. Patrick's Day weekend to do some performances, and we're really excited about that. And that, of course, will take place in that theater as well.
One of the things that I said I would do is to have you give the telephone number again, so that people who might not have had the opportunity to write it down could write it down now. Let's repeat that number again.
I'm happy to. The box office number for the Lehman Center for the Performing Arts is 718-960-8833.
And as I said earlier, we will put that down in the closing credits so that someone who hasn't taken advantage of these two opportunities will be able to do that.
That's terrific. Not just to order tickets, but of course just to get on the mailing list as well.
Which of course is very important. So it seems to me from what we've talked about today, and we've covered an awful lot of ground, that there's a tremendous season that has already happened in this 94-95 season, and a tremendous season that's coming in the months ahead,
yes.
and then on into the future. Okay. So we're talking now about the spring and the fall, and maybe some summer attractions in there as well.
That's right. Last summer, for instance, we had Ruben Blades, some people was in this past summer, and that was he primarily attracts a Hispanic crowd, but really a diverse audience, and we're doing more of that programming, as you know.
During the summertime.
That's right, summer programming, yeah. So we'll have a few events this year.
And from what you've said to me about changing audiences and changing times, nobody can forecast what the future's going to bring, and yet the programming has to be done so that you're projecting ahead and anticipating what's going to be happening in the future.
I mean, that is one of the biggest challenges that we face. But
it's a tremendous challenge.
But what we try to do is of course forecast correctly, which is the most important, and then we'll also add shows during the course of a year. And
what we've added is not enough time because we've run out of time. And Chris, I thank you very much for coming and telling us about what's happening at the Lehman Center.
Thank you very much.
My guest today has been Chris Lynch, who is the marketing director at the Lehman Center for the Performing Arts. It's a place to go to have a good time. I'm Norman Liss. The name of the program is The Way to Go. Until next time at this time, enjoy yourself.